Hey there, and welcome to the first of hopefully many issues of this podcast or episodes of this podcast. I don't have a name for it yet, so bear with me, but I just thought I would react to the top 25 teams that the AVCA released for women's college volleyball for Division 1, and I thought it would be fun to kind of go off the cuff and kind of just give my opinions. I feel like us volleyball fans are very desperate for content, and see a lot of people releasing more content, and I'm loving it. So hopefully, you guys will enjoy this. I did watch the Six Rotations live video of this announcement, and I will probably touch on some things they say, whether I agree with it or disagree with it. And yeah, bear with me. This is not edited at all. This is just a quick little thing I did. Hopefully you like it. Thanks. So let's get started. Right off the bat, the thing that stands out to me is that how close Texas and Nebraska are for 1 and 2. Nebraska got the preseason number 1 ranking, but only received 24 first place votes, while Texas received 27 first place votes, but I guess equated to Nebraska getting that number 1 vote. And I, on paper, disagree with this. I do think Texas is the number 1 team on paper. I think if the rumors are true and Kennedy Orr is setting for Nebraska, that is a way bigger question mark to me than some of the proven athletes of Texas. Yes, they might not all gel well super initially for Texas. I did watch the scrimmage, and there's some kinks to work out, but all of those players that would be starting have at least played in the NCAA, whereas Kennedy hasn't really played much at all, so she has to prove herself. If Hames is setting, I think that changes things up a little bit. She's not the most pure setter, but she's proven that she can do the job. So also with the late transfer of Caffey to Texas, I think that makes things very interesting for Nebraska. I think with Caffey and Horde as the dual middle combination, that would have been probably the best middle duo in the country, in my opinion. But now that changes things a little bit, and I feel like that transfer alone is reason enough to put Texas at number 1. However, Texas does have some question marks. Watching the scrimmage, I think their setting is also a question. They also have really powerful hitters, but I feel like consistency might be an issue. Skinner was looking like she kind of had some ups and downs in that scrimmage, but I'm curious to see if she levels out, because that Eggleston-Skinner pin combo, that might be one of the best pin combos in the country. So definitely a tough choice. I will say Nebraska's defense clearly is their strong suit, and that is how they made it so far in the tournament with the slightly underwhelming offensive production. They kind of were much better with offensive production in the tournament, but throughout a majority of last season, it wasn't as impressive as I think the fans and the coaches probably would have liked. Okay, but that's you could debate that all day. So let's go down. Wisconsin, there's even a debate for Wisconsin to be up at number 2. I think, yes, they lost a lot. They lost Retke, they lost Hilly, they lost Barnes, and they lost Loberg, but I think replacing Loberg with Franklin is like a pretty significant upgrade. Loberg had some consistency issues for sure. And then getting Caroline Crawford from Kansas to replace Retke, I think is no one can really replace Retke, but that she's a really stellar middle, and I think they'll be just fine there. I think they're gonna have a hard time choosing of Smrek, Robinson, and Crawford and Hart, because Hart is hopefully coming back from injury and is healthy, they will have a hard time choosing which middles to play. I think losing Hilly is huge. However, I like Hilly, but I feel like some of her sets were a bit predictable. So I'm curious to see if the new setting situation. I don't know if they're going to run a 6-2 with Hamill and Ashburn. However, I am curious to see if the setters take more risks than Hilly did. I feel like Hilly tended to rely on the safe set, which was easier to read. So I'm curious to see if these Wisconsin setters are deceptive. Which, talking about deceptive setters, I think if Kennedy Orr does start, from the little I've seen of her play, she strikes me as like kind of a crafty, deceptive setter, and I think that could bode well for the Nebraska pin hitters to potentially get them more one-on-one opportunities. And I'm going to be pretty candid on this because there are definitely some teams I know a bit more about and some I don't. So bear with me, just providing you some opinions to listen to. At number 4 is Louisville. I think a lot of these teams have question marks at setter, because I'd argue the same thing for Texas. I think Louisville will have a question mark at setter. They lost Dilfer, but Latharo is coming in, and she's very experienced. But you have to wonder, because she was kind of fighting for starting time at USC that last year with Tuaniga. So I'm curious to see if she can kind of like take this position in stride. And then also losing Stevenson is huge. That's going to be the biggest question mark for me for them. But they return De Beer, who I think is going to have a stellar season. And then Tillman, I think, can easily step up. And then I think Elena Scott is so fun to watch as the libero. So really looking forward to Louisville. I think there's an argument for Minnesota to be number 4 as well. Minnesota loses Samity, but they get Wooker as the freshman recruit, and watching her in the summer early, I think it was spring. Yeah. She looks stellar. I think they get Nia Gross and Erica Davis in the middle. However, I'm pretty skeptical of Minnesota middles because I remember Katie Myers coming in. She did very well at Maryland, and then when she transferred into Minnesota, Shaftmaster just does not really connect with the middles. Her setting the slide is not her strength, and that's Nia Gross's like power hit. So I'm really curious to see if they've worked out those kinks, because Shaftmaster's been there for a hot minute, so she should be able to set that slide better than she has been. So I think a lot of it will fall on Shaftmaster to get this team where they need to be, because Landfair is supposedly healthy. CC McGraw, I think, is top 2 libero in the country. So we will see how they do. But yeah, big question marks at setting and middle for them. And then Pittsburgh. So let's assess the top 5. I think if I put my ideal top 5, I would have it be Texas. Nebraska fans are going to hate me, but I think it would be Texas, Wisconsin, and then Nebraska, and then probably and then Louisville, Minnesota. I think that's right, because Wisconsin also gets the stellar libero from Turkey coming in, potentially Chanel Bramschreiber as well. So I really don't think they lose much in the backcourt, even though they did lose Barnes and Chavita. So yeah, very interested to see. And also apparently the hype with Franklin. Yeah, I watched her a decent amount last year, but it's kind of hard to tell when she's really the only one doing anything on the team. No shade to Michigan State, sorry about that, but I'm curious to see how she shines or doesn't on a team with a much better supporting cast. Okay, And then let's go 6 through 10. I'll try to be a little bit quicker. I said this is going to be short and sweet, and I'm talking a lot about each team. Uh, number 6, we got Pitt. Pitt loses a trio of stellar outsides. So they lose Inde, they lose Lund, and they lose Member Manet. So obviously lots of question marks there, but they do get transfers in Bizzario and Dalton, and then they return Gray. So that's, but Dalton hasn't played for a year, and Bizzario kind of split. I know last year she returned more to hitting full time, but she was kind of setting a lot while at Iowa, so I'm curious to see how she slots in there. Uh, but those are two like 6'5" physical pins, so I'm curious to see if they can really make some noise. And a KO, I assume, will be setting full time. I don't know if they're going to try to split with Fairbanks again, so we'll see what happens there. Uh, but yeah, lots of question marks losing those three main offensive productions. Number 7, we have Ohio State, and they return pretty much everyone except Erica Davis. It's the only loss, and I feel like their strong suit is their middle setting. I feel like Pedraza's probably the best quick in front of the setter, middle setter in the country. Hopefully that's not controversial to say. And then Murr is also stellar, and Gonzalez's ball control is really good. She was a little bit better offensively. Don't have the stats in front of me, so don't roast me if that's not actually right. But from the eye test, it looked like she was better offensively than the prior year. She's crafty. She doesn't have the highest vertical, but you can tell she has the IQ. But and then I think Mia Grunzi is coming back. Also, don't quote me on that. I'm gonna look that up right now. Let's see. Ohio State volleyball roster. This is authentic and real, guys. Watch me pull this up in real time. Yeah. She's back for a redshirt year. Okay. And she was stellar at times. She has a wicked cross court angle. My biggest question mark for them is Londot. She was stellar her freshman year, and then really kind of plateaued a bit. So I'm curious to see if she can kind of return to that form. Hopefully having kind of a lackluster sophomore season kind of amps her up to do better her junior season. Really, really curious to see them. I think they're fun to watch, and I really like Jen Flynn Oldenburg. So yeah, number 8 is Washington. Washington returns pretty much everyone except Sanders and Drexel. I think losing Drexel is going to be pretty eye-opening for them. But Washington has a history of people kind of being not super high on them, and then they overperform, in my opinion, a lot of the time, and always make it deep in a tournament. They're consistent. LMA Powell might be one of the best setters in the country. Her technique is so interesting to watch. She takes the ball so high. She barely bends her elbows. It's so interesting. But yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to do on the pins. Like, Hoffman is clearly going to be a standout returner, but I know Inslee was kind of fighting for playing time last year with Bush. And they also return Grote, and Bays. Bays is a solid libero. Grote is a stellar hitter offensively. And Washington's always a good blocking team. So I'm curious. I don't know if they'll finish number 1 in the pack. I think their base... I don't know. I think losing Drexel's huge. And so I think that'll... And Sanders was such a good blocker. So I'm curious to see... I think 8 might be a little high for them, but we'll see. Georgia Tech is 9. They obviously returned Bergman, who is insane. She played really well at the VNL this summer, but they lost Brambilla, and they lost McKissick. McKissick transferred to UCLA, and I think Georgia Tech might be overranked in my opinion. I think yeah, Bergman's great. I don't know if she'll be able to carry this team. I'm not really sure what their setting option is this year, so who knows? Maybe they have a stellar setter coming in. I'm not gonna act like I know that, and I'm not sure I know Bertolino. I think that's how you say her name, Bertolino. Last year, she didn't super impress me. She kind of did her job, but I think they got a lot of offensive production from Brambilla when, especially when Bergman was struggling. So I think there are a lot of question marks for Georgia Tech. They'll be solid. I think they'll be top three for sure in the ACC, but I'm not. I do think having them ranked third of Louisville, Pitt, and Georgia Tech is correct, but I might have them lower than 9. And BYU, I think BYU is one of the more overranked teams in this top 25. I think they lost Kerber. Who else they lose? They lost Ballard Nixon, Eschenberg. They lost. Oh, and Maddie Allen transferred to San Diego too. So they have a lot to prove. Bauer is a stellar setter, so they have that piece returning. But I think passing was a question mark last year, big question mark last year. So we'll see if that improves at all. And then just outside production. I think Livingston, is that her name? The other outside, she did pretty well last year too. So definitely, I think they're rated too high. So let's break down 5 through 10 now. I think Minnesota at 5 is accurate. Or no, we already did 5. I think we'll do 6 through 10. Yeah. I think. Yeah, I think Pitt and Ohio State. Sure, that looks good to me. 6 and 7, I like that. I do think Washington is a little high. I'd maybe have them more around 10. I think Georgia Tech is a little high. I'd probably have them more around 11, 12. And BYU, I'd probably have closer to 15, 16. But now I gotta like back that up with who I'd replace them with. So let's go through 11 through 15. So at number 11 is Kentucky. They lose Stumler, and that's pretty much it. So, oh no, oh my God, they lose Skinner too to Texas. So losing a lot of offensive production, but they get Rollins, which will help. I think she's not Rollins isn't stellar at anything, but she's a solid player. I think she'll be fine. I'm not sure who the other outside is going to be for Kentucky. Probably Lamb, I would assume. I think based on some off-season footage I've seen, Rutherford looks like she is a beast. She looks like she's hitting the crap out of the ball. So that'll be entertaining to watch. And then I'd love Teeler. Teeler's one of my favorite athletes to watch in the NCAA for sure. And then Groman, Bevan, not sure how to say that. It's just a really solid core. And then pick between Bella Bell and Getzinger for that other middle spot. But the big question mark is going to be that those outside positions on the left pin. So Kentucky, I'd have them in the 11 to 15 range for sure. Let me go through the rest of these to determine in real time if I think 11 is accurate. So number 12 is UCLA. UCLA loses Mac May and Zoe Fleck, which is arguably some of the largest losses in the country in terms of team impact. And hopefully Looper's healthy. She could have an insane season. They do get McKissick, which I think she's an upgrade to Shelby Martin for sure. I think a lot of people were expecting bigger things from Shelby Martin. She did fine. I just think didn't connect as well as the UCLA fans were hoping. They do get Forte though, and I know the middle blocker issue for UCLA was they have Dodson and Alupe. they were solid, but not super stellar. So I'm curious to see if Forte like really elevates that position. And they return McCall, great all around player. I know they got a libero transfer in from Duke. Cole, she's really stellar. I keep saying stellar. Sorry, guys. She's really great. I think it's going to be a drop off from Fleck for sure, but I think not as bad as it could have been. She'll hold her own, and I am curious to see though because McKissick at Georgia Tech, their middles were not a huge presence. So I'm curious to see if with some more terminal middles on her team, if she can set them well. Also interesting. Just realized that Forte is going from Ellie McKissick to Maddie McKissick. That's kind of fun. Number 13, Purdue, way too high in my opinion. They lost almost everyone on their team. It's going to be a pretty brand new team. I don't even know who is going to start. So, but I know they lost their libero, their setter, their 2-star outside and opposite. So that I don't even know if I'd have them. I'd have them borderline not making the top 25 probably. Number 14, Stanford. Stanford is, they have the talent. They just have not been living up to it this past season. I know they got hit hard with COVID, so maybe last year was just kind of them trying to get into a groove. But they returned pretty much everyone except Holly Campbell, and yeah, I think they're going to be like, Baird is probably one of the best outsides in the country. She had some serving woes last season, but she passed pretty well for how often she was targeted. I think Kip is probably, I'm going to go out on a limb and say she's the best opposite in the country. Tall, excellent blocker. Excellent blocker. I think she was one of the top opposites last year in blocks per set and was blocking over a block per set as an opposite, which is pretty crazy. Again, don't have the stat in front of me, so sorry if that's a misquote. Really like Minor. I think Francis will probably move to the middle based on what I'm seeing online. Looks like she's going to move to the middle, and Ruben will probably come in because I know they did lose Layla Smith. She's not coming back. I know she had injury issues last year. The big question mark is going to be backcourt defense for them. I know they got some international recruits, so I'm curious. It's kind of hard to gauge those players. Just don't know a lot about them. I'm also curious to see how Minor does. Minor is the same with Hilly, in my opinion. Minor's not a super deceptive setter. She kind of does the easy set a lot. So really curious to see if she can get her hitters more one-on-one opportunities. And then 15 is Florida. I think Florida is a little underranked here. They lost Caesar, Monserrat, Hall, Forte, and Dooley, but I think they hit that transfer portal pretty hard, and they bring in probably one of the best. I'll just say it, the best setter recruit for the freshman class. I think Stuckey is going to be really good. Beeson looks like she's probably going to have a breakout season. In terms of transfer portal, they got AC Fitzpatrick. They got Rhett Robinson from UNT. And she's a really good dynamic hitter. And then they got Markova, that's a huge get for them. She had an insane hitting percentage in the ACC last season. So I think and Hall was always struggling with injuries. She was never as a terminal as I think she could have been if she weren't injured. So I think Markova might be an upgrade there. Passing will probably be a bit of a question mark there. But I think their middle, Florida always has like a bench full of middles, so I'm sure they'll find some players to settle in there. So 11 through 15, yeah, I definitely have Stanford probably in the top 10 if I had to choose who to swap out Georgia Tech and BYU for. I'd have Stanford in the 9-10 range, and then I'd probably also have Florida in the 10 range. Um, that's what I'm going to say. But who knows when I get to the bottom, because I have hotter takes when it gets closer to the people being left out. Um, so 16 through 20, we got Baylor. I think Baylor's way overranked here. They lost pretty much everyone. I think on the 6 rotations video, they said they lost 10 roster members. That's pretty crazy. Not to mention Presley, Skinner, uh, Sedgwick, Bram Schreiber. Yeah, it's going to be rough for them. They do have Avery Carlson coming in, which she's a great setter. So I think that'll help, but big question marks everywhere else. Uh, Illinois, kind of the same. They return a lot of key players. They lost Cooney, but I don't know. They haven't been performing to the level I feel like they should. I mean, Raina Terry went beast mode against Kentucky in the tournament last year. So if she can produce that on the reg, then yeah, then they could compete for sure. But I'd probably have them too high. And then we got Creighton. Creighton is just they mentioned this in the 6 rotations thing, how they kind of always just get placed here at the start of the season, no matter if they prove themselves or not. Creighton is not a team I know a lot about. Just accessibility to their matches isn't as easy as other schools. So I do know Norris is stellar. I really like Zimmerman. I hope she's recovering from that injury from last year because that looked nasty. Hopefully everything's going all right with that. And I really like Kendra Waite. She's one of my favorite setters to watch too. So they did lose Bottomley though, and that she was a amazing libero. So not sure who they have coming in there. So maybe ball control will be a question mark, but who knows? I think they could probably be ranked a little higher, but again, I'm not super familiar with them, so I'm just gonna keep on going. Oregon, in the 6 rotations video, they did not seem to be convinced with Oregon, and I kind of am convinced with Oregon. They didn't even mention Pukas coming in, and I think that is one of the biggest impact transfers in the offseason because setting has always been a question mark for Oregon in recent history. I think the setting technique Oregon teaches is just kind of bizarre, and it's not my favorite. They love to wait last second to set the ball because they want to fling it to wherever they're going to really hold the block, and I feel like that just throws off their timing. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Oregon setting, so I'm excited to see them run a true 5-1 with Pukas, because if they don't run a 5-1, I will be shocked. But then that is the missing key piece. I think they'll be much more productive. People are saying Lewis looks pretty good in the offseason, so that's good. They have probably the best passing duo in the country with Nunaviller and Murphy. Those two passed, I think, like a 2-3, and both of them passed around a 2-3. I want to say Georgia was just under and Brooke was just over. Insane. But yeah, I think Oregon would probably be more in the 15 range for me. Penn State has some good transfers in, but I'm curious to see how it pans out. Losing Blossom and Horde and Pritchard and Hampton and Parker and Rollins, they lost almost their whole team, so really curious to see if they can put the pieces together. But a lot of times when there's a new coach, the players really love rallying around the new coach. So I do agree they're probably a little overranked because there's really nothing to base it off of right now. I think Shauna Williams probably hits the ball harder than like anyone in the country. She's bombs it. Not to mention Weatherington too. She can hit the ball harder than probably. They have two of the hardest hitters in the country on their team, and I don't know if they can get that dialed in. Who knows? They can go crazy, but I'd probably have them in the same boat as Purdue, where it's like borderline not making the top 25. Western Kentucky, I don't know quite who. I know they returned Matthews. I don't know. Did they lose? I think they lost their setter. Yes. Let me check. Again, this is a team that I do not keep up with as much because they're not in a big conference. Sorry, I have to say it. And their matches are also blocked with. Oh, they returned Paige Briggs. Okay, so I think they'll be fine. They got Matthews and Briggs. Who else do they have? Because Dejeuner is the one that she was the setter, I'm pretty sure. I think that's how you say her name. Yeah, it looks like they lost her. But I don't know. Paige Briggs is like an elite backcourt defender, and Matthews is Matthews. She's insane. So they should probably be higher just based on their history. They always perform, but man, do they not schedule tough. That offseason schedule is never as good as I want it to be. And so I think that's always going to be rough for them to like get higher before the tournament. But their RPI is always pretty stellar, so that usually gets them close to a top 16 seed. So we'll see. Oh, I didn't do 16 through 20. Hold on. In terms of where I'd rank them. Yeah, overview. Baylor's way too high. I'd have them probably not in the top 25. Illinois, I'd have them borderline, probably 22, 23 range. Creighton, I'd have slightly higher, 16, 15 range. Oregon, I would have like 13, 14 range. Penn State, yeah, close to being dropped out. Western Kentucky, I'd probably have higher up to like in the 15 range. Maybe 13 through 15 range. I'm not going to do like a legit listing of all my rankings just because I'm kind of forgetting what I'm saying, just kind of going off the cuff here. But yeah, you get the idea. And then 22 is Utah, way overranked. They lost Drews, which is who did I say was the biggest loss in the country? I lied. Drews is the biggest loss in the country. Was their team, in my opinion. So I expect them to struggle. I know they got Jardine in, right? I think she transferred to Utah from Wisconsin, and she's highly, or she looked good from the times I saw her at Wisconsin. She kind of had the freshman jitters, so who knows? Maybe being closer to home, she'll thrive. But yeah, lots of question marks. Not expecting them to be super amazing. We got Kansas at 23. They lose Crawford. And I know they ran a 6-2 last year. I didn't watch their... This is also a team I don't watch a lot of. I don't watch a lot of the Big 12, if I'm going to be real. So unless it's a Texas Baylor match, like I don't really watch a lot of the Big 12. So apologies, Kansas. But I know they returned Bien, and she looked really great in the tournament. So I feel like that's sure 23 can be accurate. And then we have USC at 24, which I get why they're ranked 24 from the AVCA standpoint, but this is a team, these next two teams are teams I would have much, much higher, like significantly higher. I think Tuaniga is... Do I want to make this claim? I think Tuaniga is the best setter in the country. I think she's so dynamic. I just think she hasn't had the pieces around her to succeed. And I think also Keller was maybe battling a little bit last season with like, do I go with the freshman or do I go with the like experienced senior? And so there was just like not a lot of consistency there. But once she was kind of slotted into that starter role, you could start seeing her really shine. She's just got a good energy about her. She's athletic. She's really nice hands. So, and now she has Fields, which I think the Tuaniga to Fields combo is going to be the scariest setter hitter duo out there this season. And they also have Wilson coming in, formerly Middleton, but she is a highly rated recruit on the outside. I know O's is a solid player. Uh, Vesca on the right side. They have, let me see, let me pull up their roster. Yeah, see, volleyball roster. Because I don't know if they return. Is Smith coming back? Sabrina Smith in the middle. I'm not sure who their middles are. Let's see. Oh, they got the Washington State transfer and the Notre Dame transfer. I think they'll be fine in the middle then, because I think Kalia Williams and Lindsay Miller are stellar. They did lose Sabrina Smith. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. And apparently their freshman libero recruit is really good. Yeah, I think they're going to be hard to beat. I think they will finish top 2 or top 3 of the Pac-12. Yeah, gonna go ahead and say that. And then finally, I'm a I'm a bit biased because I love San Diego. I think San Diego is severely underranked because I think, in addition to Oregon getting the biggest impact transfer, San Diego is the other. You can argue Texas too with Flett coming in, but Texas is already such a powerhouse that with Flett coming in, yes, that'll make them that much better. But in terms of like night and day difference, I think Oregon and then San Diego getting Blossom in is massive for them. I think she will, because setting was the biggest issue last year. Because I feel like San Diego has a history of like developing good setters. I remember Giggenbacher and Newsom. They progressively got much better, but it just wasn't happening with the new setters, and so they got Blossom in for this season. And I think Blossom to Froling is going to be crazy. I think Blackwell was expected to be really good, but then the setter connection wasn't super great. So Blossom can maybe get Blackwell going because she hits in front of the setter really nicely, and that's what both Horde and Gray did so well at Penn State. Uh, yeah, and then they have Luke's, and I know Benbow's returning. Their biggest question mark will be passing for sure. Uh, Benbow's not the best passer, and they get Maddie Allen in, who also isn't that great of a passer. But I think the more DSs, the better. Hopefully, that'll be in top shape. And then they also get Brianna Edwards in from Indiana. Yeah, I think that's right. Um, so that other outside hitter position could hopefully be on lock. I don't know. I think they're one to watch for sure. They're a dark horse. I would have them up in the closer to the number 10 range because I just think they've had the pieces minus the setting the past couple seasons, and this is what will take them. Blossom is one of my favorite setters to watch. So much fun. So I think definitely should be ranked higher. And then I'm not going to really get into much of the receiving votes. Pepperdine's good. Or they have a... Oh my gosh, what's her name? You know who I'm talking about. She's the outside hitter, really tall. Rachel Aarons. They have her coming back. She's great. Let's see. Gotta shout out Hawaii. I love Hawaii. I think they have a lot of question marks. But Amber Igidi, got to mention her. She's going to be insane in the middle. UCF got a lot of transfers in, so that'll be interesting to see. Again, Miami is not a team I watch a lot of. Sorry, guys. So I can't really speak on them. Michigan, I know a bit about Michigan. Jones isn't there anymore, but she kind of performed, had an underwhelming final season. So we'll see if Merzik can step it up. And I love Pertovsky, and I'm pretty sure she's coming back. And Hannah Grant too. Okay, now I gotta look up their roster to make sure I'm not completely lying. Michigan volleyball. Yeah, because I know they're getting Allison Jacobs in, which is a pretty good transfer for them. I like their setter, Scotty. Do they have Hannah Grant coming back? Yeah. Oh, she's only a redshirt junior. Okay, yeah. So, and then Jess Robinson in the middle. Yeah, I think they have all the pieces. They've had the pieces the past couple seasons. It just hasn't really clicked for them. So we'll see if it happens. And yeah, they're getting Pertovsky back. She's a senior. Love Pertovsky. Her serve is so fun to watch. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, just quick recap. I think Texas should be ranked number 1. Sorry, Nebraska fans. Most overrated ranking, I would say BYU probably. My top 3 overrated: BYU, Purdue, and Baylor. I'm just gonna only do a top 3. There are some other ones. Penn State's probably overranked. Utah's really overranked, but they're at 22, so whatever. I'm not gonna throw them in the top 3. Or why not? Let's do a top 5. So yeah, throw Penn State and Utah in there. And then most underranked teams, easily San Diego and USC for me. In terms of other underranked, I think Stanford and Florida are underranked. And then I'd also throw Oregon in there. Yeah. With honorable mention, Western Kentucky probably. Yeah, and so that's a quick little breakdown. This was not super structured. If I do more of these in the future, they'll be more structured for sure. Also in the future, I might decide to do video, put it up on YouTube with some graphics and whatnot, show my face. But this time around, just wanted to kind of spew some thoughts, give the people something to listen to. And I encourage others to do the same. I really enjoy listening to people's opinions on volleyball, and I just don't think there's enough of it out there. So hopefully you enjoy it. I think moving forward, I don't know, I might collab with other people. Yeah, I might do that, or it might just be solo me. Who knows? I think I'll probably want to do something with regards to matches I'm excited to see, and then maybe matches that I enjoyed watching the previous week. Just a little breakdown. Maybe like an MVP player that stood out to me or teams that stood out to me. But yeah, thank you for listening. I haven't come up with a name for this yet, so I'll do that later. And maybe in the future I'll edit these, but I'm not going to edit this very much at all. So yeah, thanks for listening and hope you enjoyed.